From the heartland of America, focused on God, family, and country, the mouthpiece of the Midwest. This is Dale Carter's America.
Wow, this is awesome. Awesome. I wish it were for me, but hey, well, I want to welcome everybody here tonight to the Blue Springs Funhouse. Funhouse Pizza. Let's give it up for Funhouse. Yeah. If you've never had it, it's awesome pizza, and if I got some extras over here, I got too much, but I will be glad to share. It's awesome stuff. I'm State Representative Jeff Coleman, and I am here as a special addition to the Dale Carter's America. Dale Carter's America. Wow, that was hard for me to say. And Dale and I have been talking a lot about things here over the years that we've known each other, but tonight isn't just talk. Tonight's about action. And so that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to be talking about Jackson County and what kind of action we're going to take this time. Dale and I have been friends for a very, very long time, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate Dale and what he's done, not only for Blue Springs, but for the whole county. Dale, if you don't know, has been a member of the Blue Springs City Council, and he has been a main portion of putting Blue Springs as to what you see now today, and we thank him for that and all the things he did there. But he's also been on the radio. I know most of you probably don't know that, on 94.1. I think Dale had some kind of an award a few years back for, what was it, middle market? Medium markets? Large markets. What am I thinking of? Holy cow. So, and he's done so much from that standpoint, and what the things that I know that he has talked to me about, I am so excited about what he's going to do as he looks forward to some announcement he's going to make. I don't know what that is, but I know that his commitment level to Jackson County is going to be such that good things are going to happen for all of us. There's one thing that I wish he would really follow through on, and I wish he would split that county, but I don't know if that's what he wants to talk about or not. But I just want you to know I'm very honored to be here and to do this for him tonight, and to also publicly endorse him for his run for Jackson County Legislature. I don't do that often, and I don't do it lightly, but I believe in this man, and I know that he's gonna win. So with that, let's now bring up the host of this podcast and the next member of the Jackson County Legislature, Dale Carter.
Nicely done. Good job. Well, that's a first. We've never done that before. You did really well.
Well, I don't think I did, but that's okay.
I was worried because
I know Dale Carter.
I helped him out there with a little bit, and I said, say whatever you want about me with a smiley face, and he did it really well. So thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. And thank you all for coming tonight. We had some weather tonight, and those of you who came, give yourselves a big round of applause because I really appreciate you for doing that. Jim Dingman, who is our host tonight here at Funhouse in Blue Springs. I see a lot of you have had the pizza. Pretty good? Pretty good pizza? All right. So, Jeff, it's interesting because we have been friends for a long time. And I'll never forget the day that I called you. And with all the crap going on in Jackson County, for me, what finally was the straw that broke the camel's back was the statue vote again, right? They put the statues on the ballot, the Andrew Jackson statues. And we as a county had already said, keep the damn statues, right?
That's right.
And they put it on the ballot again. And I called you one day and I said, I just had a weird thought. What if we split this county like St. Louis did in 1876? And you told me you were already working on it.
That is true.
All right.
I have a bill right now that's just sitting there, but it would be better if it came from Jackson County.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it will. So it's happened once, and as you mentioned, it was in the late 1800s. And now they're trying to put it back together, and the people that aren't part of St. Louis don't want to, and for the same reason that we want to split from Kansas City. So it's something that can be done. I think that there's enough people in eastern Jackson County, Dale, that would like to see something like that done, but you're going to be the man.
All right. Well, we'll see. We're going to have a lot of help to get that done. And, the question becomes, can you fix it from the inside? And that's what we're going to try and do, but know in the back of our minds that, let's face it, what do we have in common with the folks in the city core in Kansas City? They do things much differently than we do. We're going to get into that a little bit later on in the podcast. We do things our way, but it seems to me, any lawyers here? I know your husband's my lawyer, but any other lawyers here? Because it seems to me that it would be the most complicated divorce in modern history. Who gets what? Who gets this debt? Who gets that?
No, that's exactly right. That's one of the biggest hurdles that we'd have to work with, but it can be done.
Yeah.
And it's I think a matter of timing, because with some of these bonds and such, they finally run out, and that might be the time to do it. Hopefully, we're still alive.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. And when I looked at this thing, it's like fight or flight, right? And we looked at a lot of different scenarios. We looked at saying, let's run up the white flag. When Fauntleroy, my stepson, graduates from Blue Springs, it was like, maybe we move to Cass County. Maybe we just get out of this and let them settle their own problem. You get into a fight or flight situation, and it's like, you know what? I don't know. Maybe we should try.
I think we have to, Dale. I think that regardless of what I end up doing after my last year of I term out next year. And regardless of what I do, I think that's got to be part of the legacy and the continuation for the people, because that's what we're here for. It's not for us, it's for the people. And I think that's why you're doing this, and that's why I'm so excited about you getting in. And so regardless of what we do, you've got my commitment to continue to work towards the same goal that you have on that.
Well, and I know you've been working really hard in Jeff City on just the property tax thing in general. Where does that stand right now? Because I look at a lot of the issues that we're having in Jackson County now deal with the assessment issue and the property tax thing. And you've made the point before that even if you paid off your house, even if you're retired, you don't own your house.
No, that's exactly right. In fact, a lot of times when I do town hall meetings, I'll ask the question, how many people own their home? And almost everybody raises their hands. And I say, well, no, you don't really own your home, because you still pay taxes every year. And those taxes, if you don't pay them, you will end up losing your home. You've got 3 years to pay those taxes. If you don't pay it within that 3-year period, the county comes in, they put it up on the county, on the courthouse steps, and they sell it. You've got 1 year from that date to make amends and to put your tax, the tax piece that you didn't pay, plus 10% to get it back. And if you don't, it's not your house anymore. So you don't really own your house, just like you don't really own your cars, because we're paying every single year on those taxes. So at some point, we have to put a stop, because every time I do this, I always talk about this little party. I think I remember where they threw some tea over the sides of a boat, right? Can you imagine where we are today versus that back then? That's why we came to this country. That's why this country started, was for religious beliefs and taxation, tyranny. And we put ourselves right back into it. We've got to do something as a people, because we are the reason that this has gotten to where it is. We have allowed our politicians to continue to increase our taxes every time. And you have a voice and you have a vote, and it's your responsibility to get out there and vote against the people that are doing this to you. And we have some people in here, Dale, Sean Smith was here. I don't know if he's still here, but Sean Smith, who is...
I hope he's here. He's scheduled to be a guest.
There he is. I'm sorry. Well, you were hiding behind there. Sean has done such a... Judy, would you sit down so I can see? So we've had some really good people working on this stuff, and I appreciate their help. But it's going to continue. You've got to get busy for this next year, because they had a tax committee over the summertime, which went to a lot of different places and heard a lot of the same stories no matter where they went. And I don't, if it's like the ones that I had, that's how I got started on the tax bill 7 years ago. 7 years straight, I've given them the same language, made some adjustments to what they said they wanted, and they still don't get it done. And it all comes from leadership. It got passed on the floor, and then it gets over to the Senate, and they don't even bring it up. So you as a voter need to get busy and make sure that the people down there know how important this is, and that if they don't get it done, something's going to happen, like not getting voted back in. That's the only leverage you have. But we all have to do it, because if just one or two, it's not enough. We have to get groups together.
Exactly. Give it up for Jeff. Is there talk about a replacement for the property tax? Because obviously we still have to generate revenue, but it seems like there's maybe a better way than the property tax.
For the home side, no. There's not any alternative. But for the actual property, for your cars and all the other issues that you have to pay property tax on, there has been talk about moving it to a sales tax rather than just a tax on your car. It's because the revenue generated on that is not near as much as what your home does. So we could probably do that, and you wouldn't see that big of a deal. Of course, we do that anyway, and nobody really complains about it. Your cities, your counties, the sales taxes, I don't know if you've actually looked at that lately, but sales tax in Grain Valley is like 10%. So yeah, if you take a look go to McDonald's sometime, buy a meal, and see how much your meal is, and then see how much the total is, it's like 10% on the tax side. So I think we could get by with another % or two to replace the automobile tax.
Maybe we have a spending problem.
We definitely have a spending problem.
Bring that up. All right, Jeff Coleman, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Dale.
the intro.
I appreciate it.
We have a lot to get to tonight. I want to thank some of our podcast sponsors. Bob Watson, Blue Springs State Farm agent for 51 years, has been with us since the very beginning of this podcast. So you should get a rate quote from Bob if you haven't already. 816-229-7878. Bundle your home and car insurance and save. The Second Amendment, alive and well. Clay Como Shooters has been with us off and on here. They're at 69 Highway in Clay Como, 816-452-4867. Indoor shooting range. They train law enforcement so they can train you to safely exercise your Second Amendment rights. And finally, we want to mention Kirk Doris at Medicare Simplified KC. Right now, we are in the Medicare annual enrollment period, and that goes through December 7th. So if you're on Medicare, you got to make your annual elections for what you want. If you're approaching 65, this is a maze that Kirk Doris has helped thousands of people get through. You can reach him at 816-701-6661. He's on the web at MedicareSimplifiedKC.com. One more time, big hand for Jeff Coleman.
Tremendous people.
All right. In addition to the guests who are going to be on with us, we also have Mike Todd, who is the mayor of Grain Valley, sitting right back here. Mike and I go way back when he was principal at Daniel Young Elementary, right?
Teacher, I had Jonathan.
Oh, you were the principal too, right? No, you were a teacher?
Yep, I was Jonathan.
Jonathan's teacher, my youngest, and he did a fantastic job. And that's why I tell people, If you want to get a great education for your kids, and especially if you got a special needs child, no better deal in America than the Blue Springs School District, and Mike Todd is one of the reasons for that. So thank you, Mike, for what you did. And we're going to be doing some things in Graham Valley because Graham Valley is part of this district. My son, Matt, walked in. Number 3, right back there. He's my only son that still lives here. Jonathan lives in Atlanta. He's working on jet engines now. So that's pretty crazy, right?
I did not teach him how to do that.
Yeah, I'll bet. All right. So many of you here tonight, you know, you've been longtime fans of the radio station and the podcast. You know my story. Some might not. My radio career, radio is one of those businesses where you have U-Haul on speed dial, right? Because the old WKRP in Cincinnati jingle, town to town, up and down the dial. And I've known guys like that who have a 30-year career and they've been in 30 different cities. I've been in 3. Evansville, Indiana is my hometown, and I worked in radio there for 14 years from the time I was 15. I got fired. They enforced my non-compete. Where's Zeke tonight? Zeke's here somewhere. He would know all about the non-compete thing. I think maybe he might have left. Zeke Montana was on 106.5 The Wolf. We're trying to get him on KFKF. Don't tell anybody that. Actually, not KFKF, Q104. Don't tell anybody that. That's a big secret, though. Don't tell anybody. All right. Anyway, so I went from Evansville to Hartford, Connecticut, stayed there for 2.5 very snowy winters, and then I got a call from a headhunter that said, have you ever thought about Kansas City? And I said, I think I drove through it once, right, on my way to Denver. So that was 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago, and I've been here ever since. I've lived in Blue Springs since then. 3 of my sons, including Matt, graduated from Blue Springs High School. I spent 10 years in one run as the play-by-play voice for Blue Springs and Blue Springs South High School football. Tim Crone is here tonight from Blue Springs. Buddy Young was here earlier from Blue Springs South. And Tim and I are going to do a playoff game on Friday night because I'm back doing that again. Last year they called me back to the booth for the last few games. Rob Evans, who had taken my place as the play-by-play man, was very ill, and he subsequently passed away. So they asked me to come back, and so now I'm back doing that again. Many of you also know that I spent the last 16 years in the PA booth for the Chiefs, and there was really only one scenario that would make me want to quit that job, and it happened. So if that doesn't tell you that there is a God in heaven who says, this is the way we want you to go, and I'm going to make it happen, that's what happened. So it was a change I never saw coming, and I'm very happy. My call to service in this community began with the Chamber of Commerce. I don't know if you know of a guy named Blake Shelton, right? But years and years ago at the Blue Springs Fall Fun Festival, I got Blake to do a free concert in Blue Springs. Nobody had ever heard of Blake. He put on a great show that night, but that's a great story that he did one of his first free concerts in Blue Springs, Missouri. I also worked with the school district. They called me in to work on their what they call the CSIP program, which is the curriculum program, and I was honored to do that as well. After several years of that, several business people in the community, 2 of whom have already made financial commitments to this campaign, asked me to run for city council. They felt like, and they had multiple cities that they did business in, and they said, of all the cities we work in, Blue Springs is the toughest to do business in. And they asked me to run for city council. I won, and I spent the next 9 years trying to make it easier to do business in Blue Springs, and I think we managed to do that. After my council service, Mayor Ross asked me to head the effort to renew the parks tax in Blue Springs, and the positive result of that led to my award as Blue Springs Citizen of the Year from the Truman Heartland Foundation. And I think you've seen kind of the fruits of that around town. The Aquatic Center, Ron, I mean, that's pretty cool. A lot of great things happening here in Blue Springs. Jeannie Lauer was the person who got me into politics. She was doing her door-to-door when she ran for city council in Blue Springs, and we had a long conversation. I told her about my background in college. You would think it's radio, but it's not. I got into radio when I was 15, so when I got to college, it's like, you guys can't really teach me anything in radio because I'm already doing it. So I have a degree in political science and history, and we talked about that. And she said, you should run. So she was my mentor in politics. She is the one who holds this seat right now. And if you know anything about what's going on in Jackson County, Jeannie, it's clear that she no longer has the interests of what's going on here in eastern Jackson County in the votes that she's made. She's consistently been part of what is known as the Frank Four, always voting with Frank White. She told me as late as the night before the recall election that she had a good feeling that Frank would prevail. Yeah. 85% countywide and 90% in Eastern Jack voted to remove him. So, yeah. To me, I mean, that means she's out of step. And I don't know if she's going to run again. I doubt she will. She's going to need to make her own decision on that. But I am definitely in this campaign and in it to win it. The wake-up call that we had in Eastern Jackson County, I equate this to your cable bill suddenly doubling. I mean, the cable bill is something that we all have. We don't like it. It's like, I'm going to pay it again. And, then all of a sudden you get the cable bill and it's $600. And it's like, damn. Now what are we going to do? Okay, that's what's happened with your tax assessments. They've gone up and up and up. And I know that they're doing things about that behind the scenes, but that's certainly one of the reasons that I got into this thing, because there needs to be reasonableness in the taxes that we're paying. I think we could all agree on that. We do have a problem with a city over here and a county over here that have very little in common. One of the things that I have been railing about for the last 30 years that I've lived here, because I live in Blue Springs and I work in Kansas City. Anybody else work in Kansas City and live outside the city? Then you know. They vote on their own to take 1% of our pay. And it's like the cable bill. It's like, it's 1%. They'll never miss it, right? But it has grated on my nerves since I've lived here. I've had every mayor of Kansas City on my show on KFKF and talked about it. He talked about the Tea Party, COLEMAN did. We also have taxation without representation. That's kind of big in our vocabulary too. We don't get to vote on it. They get to vote on it. Why in the hell wouldn't they vote to keep it? Of course they will, and they do. So you've got that. But that's not enough for them. We've moved out to the suburbs. We've crushed their tax base, and now it's like, well, we can go after them on property taxes, right? We'll just keep upping the property taxes on residents, on businesses, or whatever. How much of that money do you think makes it to Eastern Jackson County? Do you feel it? Yeah? Where do you think it's going? Yeah, so let's think about that. They don't want our opinion on anything. They just want our money, right? And we keep giving it to them. Until now, we've said enough is enough. The assessments have just gotten crazy, so now we've said that's enough. They use our money to fund grocery stores that fail. Everybody see that story? Yeah. They let crime run rampant. We do it differently out here in the suburbs because we know the key to civilization is public safety, right? You can't have anything if you're not safe. That is the first building block of civilization. Then it's infrastructure. Then it's removing unnecessary regulations hampering growth so that we can have a thriving pro-growth economy. That's pretty simple stuff. And they can't seem to get that done in the city. All right. We've sent some messages, right? On the podcast, however you feel about the stadium tax issue, on the podcast, we said we need to get their attention. Vote no on it. They're not going anywhere. 2031 is forever down the road. Just put a shot across the bow. Let's vote no on the stadium tax issue. We voted no on the stadium tax issue. All right? I think that got their attention. The recall vote sent a much louder message. Frank White's gone. Yeah. But that doesn't solve everything. We'll get to that a little bit later on in this podcast, too. November 4th is coming up on Tuesday. That will add the exclamation point because part of the corruption going on in downtown Kansas City in that courthouse is the fact that we are the only county that has an appointed assessor. The person who's responsible for all these assessments that have driven us crazy was appointed by Frank White. Needs to be an elected position, and that's in your hands on Tuesday. Get out and vote yes so that we have an elected assessor. All right? I will fight for Eastern Jackson County to make sure every dime we send them is accounted for. We will have a voice. I got a loud voice. And I'm not going to sit as a backbencher. I'm going to question everything that's going on down there. I'll be visiting every town in the district throughout the campaign. I want to listen to the concerns of residents, business owners, and farmers. We have all of those in the 5th District. And we're going to do fun events in every town along the way, too. In fact, my friend Bill Fickle down the road here at Side Pockets, I had kind of this weird idea, and I'll throw it out here just to see what you think. I was thinking we should have like a pool tournament between the major towns in the 5th District. What do you think? You think Buckner would play on that? We'll get a Buckner team, yeah? Get a Graham Valley team, all right? Oak Grove. Funny story about Oak Grove, off the subject here. But when we moved to Blue Springs, it was back in the day when basically holidays were taken seriously, like Christmas and Easter. Everything was closed, right? And my wife at the time, Matt would agree with me here, not exactly a gourmet cook. Would you agree, Matt? Yeah. So it came time for Easter dinner, and we were a small family. It's like, where are we going to go for Easter dinner? The only place that was open was the Oak Grove truck stop. So we had the buffet at the Oak Grove truck stop. So we'll do something fun in Oak Grove too, but we're going to have fun in this campaign as well. I'll work across the aisle with Democrats because Sean Smith, who's going to be on this podcast, will tell you that as Republicans, we are definitely going to be in the minority. And if we don't work across the aisle with Democrats, nothing will get done, right? And getting things done is what we're going to try and do here. It's about pragmatic solutions to very real problems. But I'll stand up for conservative principles every time the Democrats pull hard left, and they do pull hard left, and we will stand up for our principles. In fact, someone who has done exactly that is the next guest on the podcast, representing the 6th District on the Jackson County Legislature, Sean Smith. Well, Sean, a lot has happened since you were last on the podcast.
So much that I don't even remember when I was last on the podcast.
I think it was before the Frank White recall.
Definitely before that.
All right, so Frank is out. Phil Lavoda is in there in the interim role. How's he doing?
He's doing great. His first action was to step up and fix the most critical problem we were facing, and that had to do with commercial assessments. Commercial property owners were facing increases in some cases of 1,000%
right.
and more. What that would have meant is not only would those commercial enterprises have been at risk, but if businesses shut down, that actually reduces your tax base. So what happens is if you lose those taxes that commercial property owners are paying, you not only lose the property taxes, because it's a lot easier to give up a business than it is to give up a home. You can move a business, a lot of cases, to another county or another state, especially where we're at. But then you also lose the sales and use taxes that business pays. And guess where they go to make that up? They're going to come to your house. So the fact is that it was extremely urgent that we get that fixed, and he immediately stepped up. One of the reasons we picked him was because he's a lawyer who's demonstrated a willingness to not accept what I will call prevailing wisdom. He will fight for what's right, even if he's been told that that's not technically what's proper. And that's exactly what we needed. We needed somebody that would look at the law and be smart enough to make their own analysis and do the right thing for the public rather than just default to what some county lawyer told them they were and weren't allowed to do.
You know, when I lived in Connecticut, Governor John Rowland was running for governor at that time, and he had a big sign. He was famous for it. It was the way it's always been, with a circle and a line through it. And it seems to me that Jackson County could use that wisdom.
Jackson County definitely needs that. So if we think about the last 20 years in Jackson County, we had a county executive that ended up going to federal prison. And then we had this one who was just recalled by an overwhelming majority of voters. So the fact is we have had a very rough 20 years. That's most of the adult life of the people sitting in this room, except for a couple of you who might have a little bit more years of experience than me. But you're talking about a huge chunk of what we've experienced here from a local government perspective that has been extremely flawed and looking out for itself instead of looking out for its citizens, and that had to change, and I'm proud to have been a part of that change.
Well, you know, you talk about the business taxes going up 1,000%, is that what you said?
Some of them.
Yeah. and of course the assessments that we've all dealt with here. What is the end goal? I mean, are they trying to run everybody out of this county?
No, I would say it's a combination of ineptness and social engineering. So they definitely, it's funny, because of the recall, Frank actually started going on television shows and speaking. And there was one clip that I extracted where he said that wealthy people and insiders used to have to pay the lion's share, and we're setting out to correct that so that now the working class will pay more. And I thought, sometimes if you talk too much, you accidentally say the truth out loud. And that's exactly what I think Frank did. He wanted to protect the have-nots, or the haves, sorry. And for years he was able to get away with it. The other aspect of it was some class warfare. So he's very much in this belief that people that have inexpensive homes need to be taken care of. And the fact is that I think you and I come from a premise that we got to each take care of ourselves and our own families first. And that, yes, we're happy to take care of people that are disadvantaged, but they need to be trying to take care of themselves too. And that's not where the other side is sometimes.
Yeah. My belief about government in general has always been, let's agree on the things that this government ought to do, right? How much is that going to cost us? And then how much are we going to pay for it?
Yeah. The other interesting thing about property taxes is that the entities who really benefit and can enjoy out-of-control spending are not necessarily the county. So I don't think the county's budget is excessive. Have I been able to find some things that seem a little wasteful? Sure. But the reality is that we only keep, as a county, about 7% of the total sales taxes that are collected. Most of it goes to school districts. School districts have professional superintendents and other staff and administration who I think they start off the premise from a budgetary perspective of what's the maximum amount of revenue the law allows me to generate, and how can we best spend it? Now, I acknowledge they're wanting to educate kids, and if the lion's share of that money was going into the classroom and paying teachers more, I think we'd maybe be more on board, especially if we saw the results in the quality of education. But when we see administrative spending going through the roof and teacher spending staying relatively flat and outcomes not going the direction that we would like, well, then we have to ask ourselves why. And I think part of the reason is that those administrators, it's a lot easier to add other administrative jobs that make high incomes than it is to say we need to give all of our teachers more. And it really separates who's responsible. So this time we saw that our assessor failed us and our county executive failed us, and we held them accountable. Very rarely do people get run out of a school board seat because they weren't fiscally conservative enough. So that's the other part of the equation, though, is people are going to choose to either say there's two sides to this coin and we're going to hold everybody accountable, or we're going to continue to see these numbers go up.
Yeah. If spending money on school districts was the deciding factor, St. Louis and Kansas City would be among the best in the country.
They do spend more than I think other districts in the state, yeah, and they don't have the learning outcomes. So we really have to ask ourselves. I think this is way above my county legislature job, but how do we do a better job for our kids? Because these large institutions that seem to benefit the administrators but not benefit the kids, not benefit the teachers. And then, of course, parental responsibility in that equation, too. I think we just all have to back up and say, how do we really reform all this? But that's, like I said, not my pay grade.
Well, I think you should look at like the Blue Springs School District, the Lee Summit School District. I mean, they do a really good job. So there must be something to that. A couple other quick things here. The jail and the stadium issue. Where were we on both of those?
So the jail's going to be open in early 2026. It's drastically needed. One of the things that I knew going in was that the jail we had was deteriorating badly. I didn't realize how badly until I took a tour. The fact is that the jail is past its prime. So one of the things I'm proud of is that myself and 7 of my Democratic colleagues were able to finally fund the jail project that had been lingering for 3 years. Because it lingered, largely because of Frank, but also because of prior legislative failures, we ended up paying more for it and having less capacity than we'd like. So I think we're going to end up looking at a plan to maybe expand that. And it was built with the idea that it might need to be expanded in the future. So, but the bottom line is we're going to have a much more humane jail, a much more efficient jail, a jail that's much more efficient for our corrections officers and for our police officers. Not only more efficient, but also safer for them. That thing's going to finish on time, on budget, largely because it had a tremendous amount of legislative oversight. So that's huge, and it will have an impact on crime when we can lock people up. Right now, we can really hold about 600 inmates. At full capacity, we're at 800, and jails cannot be at full capacity. You can't have, you have to have some time where a given cell gets cleaned and taken care of and maintained. So we've been way under what our needs were for probably a decade, and it's unfortunate that there wasn't more foresight in this county years ago. But when we had, somebody who was headed for federal prison, the likelihood that they were going to say, man, what we really need is a jail, probably wasn't going to happen, right? And the city exacerbates that too. Kansas City's not had a municipal jail now for over a decade, and that has a huge impact because what it means is people get released for minor offenses who could have been held for a little while and cooled down. And instead, they get back out and they escalate, and then that leads to more crime. So we are hopefully turning a corner in a couple of ways with crime in some of the things that we've been able to deliver in the last couple of years.
And the stadium?
Stadiums are complicated. You showed as voters that you didn't think that paying for a stadium that was going to be built in downtown Kansas City was something you wanted. I think that if the teams wanted to stay put, voters might be willing to continue to help fund the stadiums, which are owned by the county. These are not assets that are owned by the chiefs. This is not some blank check giveaway to those entities. But we also want them to be a good fiscal partner with the citizens of the county. And I think it's a great time to put the screws to them, frankly. They've been shown that voters aren't just going to roll over, even on the heels of a world championship for the Chiefs. They've been shown that their other options aren't so attractive, because if they were attractive, they would have already gotten done.
Right.
We have a lot to offer. We just have to make sure that they understand that as we offer something to them, they have to come to the table and reciprocate.
Well, I no longer have a conflict of interest in that area, so if you need somebody to drive the screws, give me a screwdriver.
Sounds good. Yeah, and I'll say back to your initial question about the county executive, the kind of work that he has done has involved some really serious negotiations. The kind of work that I've done has involved many transactions that were over $1 billion that had to be negotiated, and I was right in the middle of. So, we have people that have expertise. With the old county executive, we didn't have leadership with expertise.
Nope. And
we didn't have leadership that was willing to accept a partnership and have somebody come alongside them. So I was sidelined, and it was pretty frustrating. And the fact is that we can figure out a way to put a good package together that is going to be something that will uplift the community, help support more things that need to happen in the community, in the county as a whole, and at the same time really balances what the teams get and what they have to give back.
Frank was a great second baseman, though.
That's what I hear. It was a little before my time. Just kidding.
I know. So how important is this vote coming up on Tuesday?
So it's huge. I think what people need to appreciate is that the county executive stepped into this role a little over a week ago. He has an obligation to make an evaluation of every member of his staff. I think the tradition is when a new county executive joins, all the staff gets a correspondence that basically says, you serve at my pleasure, and I want to know if you're the right person still, right? So I expect that something along those lines is happening for tons and tons and tons of positions. And I think if people were to say, we're perfectly happy with the current assessment situation, by not showing up, not voting, that could maybe cause him some doubt about whether or not we need a new assessor. So I think it's really important in that respect. I also think it's important because we're going to be voting in about 12 months on a statewide constitutional amendment that was sponsored, I think, by legislator CATON. I know that Jeff Coleman helped get that done. I know Ron Fowler helped get that done. Imagine this, 12 months from now, we're voting statewide on whether or not we should have an elected assessor. And statewide, they say, well, Jackson County just rejected that idea. right? So this is sending a message on a lot of levels that I think we all desperately, desperately want, and that is that we want to have our assessor be directly accountable to the voters.
Amen. Yeah. So it starts with you folks who live in Jackson County. You got to vote yes on Tuesday.
Get her done.
Sean, thanks.
Thanks, Dale.
Appreciate you, bud. A few of our other sponsors here. Christian Brothers Automotive, Tim Porter. Tim, are you here? Tim was going to try and make it here tonight. We're keeping our cars longer. You got to keep them maintained. And Christian Brothers in Independence on 40 Highway, Tim Porter does a fantastic job. They service every kind of vehicle you could imagine. So give them a call. Get your car lined up there so they can take a look at it. 816-675-4587. Christian Brothers in Independence at 19600 East 40 Highway. I thought Michael Schroer would be here tonight. Lisa, what happened on that? He's your neighbor. Yeah. So he's not here tonight. All right. Maybe the rain kept him out. Maybe he's out selling a house because that's what he does. Michael Schroer with RE/MAX Elite in Lee Summit. If you're buying, if you're selling, if it's your first time home, you got more kids running around, you need more bedrooms. Maybe the kids have gone off to college, you need a smaller house, or maybe you got a piece of property you want to build on. 816-373-8400 for Michael Schroer with RE/MAX Heritage. Your roof is something you got to have over your house. Roofedbyroyal.com. They are great folks who aren't going to be the door-to-door salesmen who are going to tell you that, hey, you know, we can get you a free roof from your insurance company. They work with insurance companies to make sure you're getting exactly what you need, and that new roof could reduce your insurance rates. Roofedbyroyal.com, 816-540-7057. All these people I'm telling you about, they help us bring you this podcast, and the first guy to jump on board was Jim Dingman, who is running Funhouse Pizza here tonight and fed all of you. So, yeah. All right. We have a couple of more guests from the House of Representatives, CAROLYN CATON and Ron Fowler. Come on up. Ron, did you want to do this? All right. CAROLYN CATON, Ron Fowler, thank you for being back.
You bet.
Thank you for having me. We've done this kind of tag team thing before, right?
We did.
Yeah.
Had a great time.
Yep.
Yeah. CAROLYN, I remember when you were a long shot for the Missouri House, we had you on the podcast.
You did.
And what I've come to know about you is don't tell CAROLYN CATON she can't do something because you will do it, right?
That is very true. Yeah. I love a challenge.
Yep. Most accomplished freshman in the House, right?
So I'm told.
Yeah.
So I'm told.
Ron, would you agree?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You're a freshman, too.
Outstanding job.
All right.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Okay. So November 4th is happening, and in large measure because of your efforts. So let's talk about what's going to happen on November 4th.
Okay. And as Sean said so eloquently, you have to get out and vote. This is our chance to show the entire state that we want our county to have an elected assessor. Out of 113 counties and the city of St. Louis, which is what makes up the 114th, we are the only one that does not have an elected assessor, one that is appointed. And I don't know about you, but I want my assessor to be accountable to me, to you.
That's right. Yep. Well, you know, Frank White was accountable to us, and you saw how that worked out.
Yes, amen.
Yeah. So if this happens on Tuesday, what does that mean for the statewide vote next November?
It means it won't need to happen. But it might still, because it being a charter county, if someone sues, then we'll be back in the same place.
Yeah.
So it could be up in the air, but I would like to still see it happen just as a backup and as a case, and because if it goes to litigation, we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Okay, well, to be continued on that. Meanwhile, assessments are not just a Jackson County issue, they are a statewide issue. I've done a little reading on this, and while ours appear to be obscene, other entities in the state of Missouri have seen their property assessments go up as well. And just the process of doing the assessment process, I mean, it seems onerous. Is there anything that we can do on the state level to fix that?
That's a really deep question that I don't know if I have a good answer for, to be honest. City of St. Louis is experiencing very similar things now because they have an appointed assessor as well. Really, it has to come down to, I think, a couple of different things. First of all, anytime there's a school bond or a levy, I think they need to be honest on what they're putting as far as the verbiage on the ballot. letting people know that this is going to affect your taxes. That doesn't have to do with the assessor, but that does have to affect your taxes. And Ron did sit on the council for property taxes, and I'm sure he'd love to give you an update on that.
Please.
Yeah, and then again, the assessor, they should be held accountable. So we're going to work on property taxes. I think that's going to be a major focus of this coming session. But Ron has got some really great insights that I'm sure you're going to want to hear.
Sure. First, to give me a shout out to Jeff Coleman, who he's on the last year of his term, and I'm on the first year of my term. Jeff has been working this thing since at least 2019, I'll bet, being on that committee. And thank him for everything he's been doing. And this just shows it is a complicated issue, property taxes. It goes across the state. Every area has trouble with them, whether it's too high or even we have some counties that are actually too low, and they're getting asked to, pay their fair share as well.
Right.
So yeah, we've been around the state. We have listened to a lot of people. There is bills that's already been filed for a new way of doing assessment via a tiered system. I'm going to tell you that that it sounds optimistic up front, and maybe they're even discussing about getting rid of the property taxes on vehicles. There's a lot to it. That's got a lot of things to go through, a lot of hurdles. I can't say that it's going to pass just yet, but we're looking at alternatives to the assessment process. Honestly, Jackson County may have a certificate of value when sales occur, but throughout the most counties, well over 100, don't even do that. So it's really tough to tell you what their assessments are. So you got it does start with assessments. If you don't get the assessments right, if there's misappropriations in assessments, those are all problems we got to fix. There is a lot of bills going to be filed this year just on that. Speaker Patterson's very focused on getting some things done, and I'm sure it will happen.
I think we just want our taxes to be reasonable, and we want our assessments to be reasonable. And I think for a long period of time that I've lived in Blue Springs, you didn't even really think about Jackson County because it was just, it was like the cable bill. It was always the same, blah, 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 blah. But then you get that spike in your assessment, and then you get another spike the next year, and it's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Isn't this a math thing, too, that as your assessed value goes up, shouldn't your tax go down, the rate go down?
So there is a Hancock Amendment, which does say that revenue for a political subdivision has to stay the same as it was, with the exception of new construction. You can add that on, but yeah, keep it tiered down. However, taxes are still going up, assessments are still going up, and that's really where the tax commission or tax committee is trying to go in and get those fine little details to control that better. Representative Caton mentioned elections. Yeah, there's some opportunities there too that we can get better ballot language out there for our citizens so they'll know more clearly what they're voting on.
All right. Anything else going on in Jeff City that relates to Jackson County? I'm sorry, Carolyn, you were going to say something else.
I was going to say, actually, I've got a bill. I'm working with the Secretary of State, Denny Hoskins' office, on the ballot language, trying to figure out how we can have more say on when school districts put that ballot language out there. Just working on the process on that as well. So it's going to be one of my focuses in Jeff City as well.
All right. Well, best of luck to both of you.
Thank you.
You so much for being here, Ron.
Well, I just got one more thing. It's calling out to shout out to Blue Springs to. Right now, we really have a great opportunity for the Blue Springs South Jaguars this year in football.
My territory.
And I want to just ask that everybody get behind them. They're going to need all the support they've got to go take the next steps they're doing. You've had a firsthand experience because you got to watch a lot of their games this year and call them. So it's exciting. It's exciting.
They're ranked number 2 in the state. They're undefeated. CBC in St. Louis, because of the St. Louis bias, they are ranked number 1. But if you look at like strength of schedule, which we look at, the Suburban Gold Conference that both Blue Springs schools play in is probably the best in the state. So they've been through that kind of a gauntlet. And I think they're going to do well in the playoffs. That said, they have the bye because they won the conference this week. So this weekend it's going to be Blue Springs playing on Friday night. I'm always for the team from Blue Springs. Blue Springs is playing Rockbridge on Friday night, and then next week South will get into those playoffs as well. But I did their games back when they beat CBC in St. Louis, and Blaine Dalton was a big part of that team. This team might be better.
Wow, that's great. Great to hear.
And this team is deep.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm with you.
let's all support them, do everything we can, all right?
All right.
One last thing, remember, get out and vote on Tuesday, November 4th, and hopefully we'll have a new assessor, and I'm going to put my support behind a friend of mine that I think would do an excellent job, Mr. Preston Smith.
Who is here tonight as well. Preston Smith rocking the Rush Limbaugh t-shirt. Gotta love that. All right. Thank you
Thank
both.
you. Thank
Continue
you.
your good work in Jeff City, too.
Thank you.
All right. Listen, I want to thank all of you for braving this weather to come out tonight. I don't know if it stopped raining yet or not, but yeah. I want to thank you for that. I want to thank Jim Dingman and the staff here at Funhouse Pizza tonight. Tony Miles is in the house from Buckner. Thank you for making the trip down. Got your water wings? You bet. We've got a long road ahead, right? As Sean said, things are getting better, right? I'm running to help him by being a consistent partner. That's something he doesn't have right now. We want to get incompetency and corruption out of county government and giving Eastern Jackson County a seat at the table. As everyone has said tonight, the next step in this process is Tuesday. Vote yes on Tuesday for an elected assessor, someone who is responsive to the voters as we fix what I think is the biggest problem this county faces, and that's this assessment thing. And Preston's done a lot of work on that, and I think he's going to continue to do a lot of work in that area. Watch dalecarter.us for campaign updates as we officially kick off my run for the 5th District seat in Jackson County. Thank you all. And until next week, when we get back into the government shutdown and what else the Democrats in D.C. are doing, this is Dale Carter's America.
The views expressed on Dale Carter's America are Dale's and Kurt Wheeler's. They do not necessarily reflect the views of KFKF or Steel City Media. Comments can be sent to dalecartersamerica@gmail.com. Check back for weekly episodes. Subscribe, spread the word, and give us a 5-star review. Thanks for being a part of Dale Carter's America.